Good day to everybody out there. How are you guys doing? I hope you are doing fantastic. It is a Sabbath where we are at, and I don't know when you guys will watch this video. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be years down the line. If so, Yah chooses that you so hear such a topic as this. And this is probably one of the most important topics that we could ever discuss. And it is something that is talked about in the Bible quite a bit. And it's talked about with great power. And when I was in sixth grade school, I was in a school called Twin Falls Christian Academy. And it was the first year, actually I think I went in fifth grade and sixth grade. It was the first time in my schooling that we went from adverbs and pronouns and learning basic what they call Freemason education, to where we had things called catechism. And that is kind of a Catholic thing, and this was not a Catholic school. It was what they call a Christian school, but that could be put at pretty much anything. But I remember us having to define things like this, and it was the first time that I learned what the definition of faith was. And prior to that, we all knew what faith was, but if you have to define what faith is, it's believing in something that you cannot see. Now, that sounds interesting. It sounds crazy. But it's something that we do every single day. Every single day you have faith. Let's say, for instance, that you do not have faith that your toilet would sit and hold you when you sat down. Let's say, for instance, one time in your life you sat down and your toilet broke and you flipped to the ground and water went all over you. Every time you sat down on that toilet, you would probably wonder to yourself, I wonder if this toilet is going to break. What happens in a chair? I remember when I had a computer store and I had this big, large fella. He came in the computer store and we were sitting and he sat down in this chair and the chair crushed under him. And I believe I had to have one of my kids help me lift this fella up because he was such a huge fella, right? He had faith in my chairs and he believed that this chair could hold him. But it's third world country design, and I wondered to myself, I didn't quite have the faith that hold him, and he ends up on the ground. I felt really, really bad. With bad faith, we can get into a lot of stuff. We can learn a lot of bad things, and it doesn't take a tremendous amount of faith to understand that we are a designed creature, that we not only are designed, but that there is something supernatural around all of us. Everything that we look at, and I don't know about in the big city where it's the concrete kingdoms and things of that nature, but when you get out of the city and when you get out of the concrete jungle, when you look at just completely 100% what Yah has made, Yahuwah, God as we call him, it is absolutely beautiful. And take anything. Take a blade of grass, take a frog, take a centipede, take anything that has been designed and study it and look at the magnificence of the design. Something somewhere has designed something in such a great form that we're not walking around on three legs, right? Imagine that if we had three legs and tried to hop around, try to get in and out of things, maneuver, try to get in a car when we have three legs, right? Imagine 3 arms, 4 arms. Imagine our nose on the bottom of our feet, right? One of those legs we couldn't even step down on because that's how we smell. So to smell, we'd have to lift our leg up in the air to sniff things, right? Everything around us is a beautiful, perfect design. From a common housefly that sits there and eats the carcasses of the dead other flies that you kill, these things eat the dead of their own. They don't care. It's a snack. They were just flying around with them, and all of a sudden you smack them and kill them, and they all come around and start eating their friends, their other flies. Everything with nature has a perfect design. The only thing not perfect about any of this design is when man comes in and alters it. That's why we have skies, beautiful blue skies that are now white. Man has been here. We have lands that we used to walk on that were beautiful and we could drink all the water. Now man has come and polluted everything, right? We used to have beautiful everything, and man is what it comes and destroys it. And it's not because we want to destroy things, it's because we want to dominate things. And that's what man does. Man enjoys domination. And so does Hasatan, which is the adversary, the one that roams about. And when we are looking at faith, when we're talking about faith, when we are understanding that faith in the Bible, it says simply that if we have the faith to move a mountain and we believe that mountain could be moved, that mountain will be moved. Who among us has that faith? Who among us could raise the dead? Who among us has the faith that knows that Elohim has called you out of the world, and that if you're actually listening to this today, that he has called you to a better life? That is faith. Faith is believing in what you cannot see. I will tell you, 7 years ago, we had the faith to move out of the United States of America. It was during Jade Helm 15, what they call Jade Helm 15. And to most people, you don't even know what that is, because you don't even know. Well, in the United States of America in 2015, they moved in like $5 billion of military equipment as they removed the Smith-Mundt Act, which is an act that allows the military not to be able to attack yourselves. I was reading Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51. I was trying to identify what I believed Mystery Babylon was, as I'm sitting there watching the Hammer of the World surround myself in 2015. So we speak zero Spanish. Literally, I cheated my entire way through Spanish class and school, and I did not actually attend because I did not enjoy it, but I did graduate. I graduated, and I had B average, CBs, and most of everything. So we are in a place where we're reading in the Bible about a nation called Mystery Babylon that is the pharmakia city of the world, right? If there's anything about pharmakia, if there's anything about pornography, if there's anything about murder, let's say, for instance, we should not murder, but yet we're offering 6,000 children a day on the altars of Moloch. And then back in 2015, the government was still funding Planned Parenthood. So all of a sudden, I'm like, my tax-paying money is going to slaughter little children. I am going to be afflicted. And it said in Jeremiah 15:51, flee from her. Flee from Babylon, so you do not partake in her plagues, because her hour of judgment will come. And that was enough for me. But did I have the faith to make this happen? Because we got in our cars from Oregon, 2 cars and a little trailer thing on the back, and we drove all the way from Oregon, all the way into Idaho, all the way down through into Texas. And we're sitting at the border of Texas. And I've left my entire house, my business, everything that I have. I have nothing but what is on my back. Nothing. We're in a minivan and we're in a truck. And we drove. And you know what? As we hit the Mexican border, I literally got out of my truck. I got on my knees, and I thank our Creator that he had preserved us. Now, all our lives being in North America, everyone says, well, you better watch out for Mexico. Everyone dies in Mexico. The gringos die in Mexico. You're all going to die. You're never going to make it through Mexico. Everybody's going to die, especially driving. Nobody drives through Mexico. You will all die. I, the wife, and all of us, we had Verizon cell phones. And we did not understand that when you hit the Mexican border that you got to change a whole bunch of stuff with your plans. So we ended up in Mexico with no maps, no cell phones, and actually it was really hard to start exchanging cash. We did, but it was just strange. And you have to understand, we don't speak a lick of Spanish, right? And so we can count to 10 in Spanish, and we can say some basics, but we didn't even know what the word for ice was, right? We're in Mexico, and we're sweating like pigs, and we're trying to figure out what ice is. I'm like trying to describe this, and nobody has ice. It's not called ice. It's called hielo, Hielo, or something of the sort. It's not called ice. And so we struggled, and we drove. And as I was thinking about this drive down there and this crazy stuff, we ended up no maps, lost in Mexico. I think we spent like 9 days in Mexico, 8 or 9 days in Mexico. Actually, wife's over there, 6 days in Mexico, and it was probably because we were freaking lost. Like literally, I felt like we were driving around in circles forever, or the entire 19-day journey felt like we were hell trying to get out of Mexico. And this was how bad it was. In this little town in Mexico, we lost our fifth wheel trailer about, I think it was probably around noon. It broke, and the frame of it broke off. And they have these things in Mexico called túmulos. And for those who don't know what túmulos is, and if you're ever driving through Mexico, don't drive real fast. Because out of nowhere, are ginormous speed bumps. You'll hit these things, your stuff will go flying, and they have little kids sitting alongside the road to pick up your stuff. So you go pounding down the road, bam, and all of a sudden the people from the side of the road come and pick up your stuff because they know the gringos come through there and they trash their cars, and there's a good chance of getting stuff. So as we're lost in this place, we end up in this little itty-bitty tiny town. Now this little tiny town, we learned, is what they said was El Chapo's town. And so we sit in this town and we know Spanish again. I don't think anybody in these towns speaks English, right? So we ended up finding a welder, and we're sitting there welding throughout most of the day trying to get this frame back on. And as sunset hits, we are sitting there and trucks start driving up. Scantless looking guys. Almost to the point where I would say we almost got surrounded. The guy we were with, he says, hey, it's sunset. Anything that's out after sunset is pretty much this town's. They take whatever's there. And I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty sketchy. And as time goes on, as the welder's trying to fix this stuff, more people come. And I thought to myself, we are just about to die. And so we took everything that we possibly could out of this fifth wheel trailer, and we popped into a truck. It looked beyond Sanford & Sons, and we rushed to this little itty-bitty place that was concealed, that basically it was a safety net, and we literally ran into that place, and we stayed the night. We blew out of there at like 5 a.m, but it was probably the closest we've ever come to, probably close to death. But had I not decided to dump that fifth wheel trailer, which we later found, we had a little stash of gold, we had a little stash of silver, and we left it. We forgot it. It was tucked away in this trailer. So we left quite a bit of gold, quite a bit of silver, a little bit more than what we had. I mean, that was all we had, literally, in that trailer as we rush off with our lives. And we continue on making this trip. And 19 days later, we drove into a place we had never been, into a place we literally had only seen online. We only had a guy that told us that he grew up here and it had changed his life and he loved this place. And so this is where we decided to go. Never before had we ever come here. And so we did all of this by faith, by literally faith. And we knew that we were leaving the United States of America because of Jeremiah 50:51. And so when you're talking about faith and when you're talking about that, there is without a shadow of a doubt supernatural protection that protected us. Probably so that we can all talk about things of this nature today and things of this magnitude, because what you're looking at right now on the screen is you're looking at a blade of grass at like 4,000 times input, right? We are looking at a magnification of a blade of grass. And do you guys see what I see in here? I see a bunch of smiley faces. I see a bunch of little happy things that are yellow and smiling. And did you know that every single blade of grass, if you can zoom into this magnification, has smiley faces all over it, right? How is this possible? How is this possible without a designer? How is this possible without a great designer, right? Nothing around us is broken. Nothing around us is flawed except what man does. And so when we can see creation, I don't believe we have to have a tremendous amount of faith to understand that there is a creator. And if there was a creator, perhaps he left us some sort of a document, maybe some sort of a guide. And if you were looking for a guide or for some sort of document, the closest that I would find or that I would say is probably the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And when you read the Torah and it tells you how to live and it tells you what you should do and the ways to life and the way you should live it, this is simply giving us how to live, right? Not simply how to live, but this also teaches us how to walk with our Creator. And the point of everything in faith is that we know there's a creator. We know this creator is calling us. We know this creator has a plan for us. We know that this creator has not just a plan for us, but he has a way, right? This world that we are walking is but a temporary realm. From dust we came and dust we will go. We are not going to walk away from this alive unless our Messiah comes early, and none of us should count on that. None of us should count on this rapture that the Christians have spun to everybody, that a whole bunch of disobedient people are going to be taken up into the sky because our Creator loves sinful people, right? He's just all of a sudden, after thousands of years, he decided to send his kid to die for us so that we could live these vile, horrible lives. That doesn't make sense. So we must have the faith. And the faith, when we get into this, is all about what the ancients had, right? What did the ancients have? Well, we have from back in the day, we have Adam. And, you can't, I guess you could count faith to him. I mean, he lived 900 years. But the real faith, I guess we have Abel, right? We have Yahweh, who is still, a hero to this day. We have Adam, the forefather. We have Yahweh, who was really up into the faith. Then we have the real architects and the real patriarchs, which are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And if anybody had faith attributed to them, it would have to be Abraham, right? And today's lesson is all about faith. It is completely about everything about this. And I'm going to read it again in the NIV, and I would ask that everybody, just read a couple different translations and stuff. It never makes any sense in one single translation alone. You got to have several different translations. And so I got the Sefer here. NIV is on the right. King is on the left. And we'll pop over to Sefer. Hebrews 11, faith in action. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, Elohim's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what is visible. What can we take from that right out of the gate? Well, we know that there was nothing here. It was a void. There was nothing there. And you can read in Enoch, you can read in the extracurricular books about how the Spirit of God was created this stuff, but there was nothing here. Right? And we do not know this, right? Without the Torah, we would not know that our Elohim created everything out of nothing, and that by his words, he created everything. So it's very important, because if not, I mean, anybody could have created this, and we could just be, it could be a matrix for all we know. It could be a computer simulation. Verse 4, by faith, Abel brought Elohim a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when Elohim spoke well of his offerings, and by faith, Abel still speaks even through the dead. And lots of people reference Abel. Lots and lots and lots of people reference Abel. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because Elohim had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased Elohim. And this is where the translations can get into a little bit of some sort of guesswork, because this was interesting. Verse 5 right here says, by faith, Canuck, which is Enoch, was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because Elohim had translated him. For before his translation, he had his testimony that he pleased Elohim. So I guess we're looking for a translation. Hopefully Yah translates us and gets us out of here. Verse 6, and without faith, it is impossible to please Elohim, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. What do we mean by this? Well, this all comes down to faith, right? You can have faith, you can think that there is a creator, but without your will to serve the creator, you may believe, but you don't have faith that is saving faith, right? We can all think that there's a creator, but if we do not dedicate our life and put our ways towards it, then what good is it just knowing that there's a creator? We have a shot whether or not we want to serve the creator or not. And that is what this faith is about. It's almost a choice. Do we want to go with what we cannot see and what we believe in, that we look around and we know without a shadow of doubt he created everything? Or do we just want to be willy-nilly and just go with the default and go with the world and just act like that, right? And that's what so many of us are. And that's why so many are left behind into the kingdom of hell, right? And I'm not saying left behind as far as rapture goes. It's just that they're left behind. Many are called, few are chosen. Verse 7, by faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is keeping with faith. And what does that mean? Well, because he built his ark, like if you do not have faith, you're not going to spend years building a giant ark when the entire town is sitting there laughing at you like you're an idiot, right? This guy is building a ginormous boat, and these people haven't probably seen rain for years. Not enough rain that it would make a puddle, let alone flood the entire land. So this man looked insane, but by his faith and him doing what he did, if he just said, you know what, this is insane, it's not going to happen, he would have flooded off the rest of it. But it is by his faith that he condemned all those, because he built that boat, he believed what Yah said, and he saved himself and his family. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents as Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise, right? And these guys, this promise, this is not the promise of our Creator dwelling with us does not give us a promise of everything being okay. It does not guarantee us a shelter. It does not guarantee us food. It does not guarantee us anything. It guarantees us that we have somebody and a companion, the Creator, walking beside us. We're going to be tested. We're going to be tempted. We're going to be thrown in the ditch. We're going to do it. Don't expect perfection out of it. In fact, expect testing, right? Because that's what happened with Abraham. Yah said, go kill your only child. And until I read this chapter, I did not understand how a father could say, okay, let me go kill my kid. It was not until I finished this chapter that I understood it. So, verse 9, by faith he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents. I read this. Continue on. He lived in tents as he did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is Yahuwah Elohim. What are we looking for? What does this mean? He's looking for a city with foundations. Well, the New Jerusalem, and I believe that all the old ancients knew about the Messiah coming. I believe they knew about Mount Zion. I do believe that they knew what was happening. I believe Yah kept them. If he walked with them and talked to them, it was clear that they had stuff that we didn't know. Verse 11, and by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. So let's go to the next one. I'll explain this. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. What do we mean this man was almost dead? Well, he was really old. This man and his wife were way beyond childbearing age, right? Like it was a joke. If you were going to have a kid at your age, that's a joke. Nobody has kids at that age. It just doesn't happen. And so he was as good as dead, right? He was as good as dead, but yet this describes that from this dead old couple, in life unimaginable came. Verse 13, and all these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. Okay, what promise? What promise are we talking about? Well, a lot of you are answering this, but the promise is Messiah Yahushua, right? Messiah Yahushua, who, this was even in the days of Abram, there were no Levitical priesthood, right? There was not a sacrificial setup set up to where it atones for sins in the mass killing of the animals like it is, right? And so they didn't know this. They didn't know what the world was going to be, but they understood that this land and these lands, and this is what we should understand, is as much as this is our home, as much as we feel comfortable here, as much as this is, these are not our lands. Our land is over in Yisrael, when that comes. When our Messiah comes back with a vengeance, and he will, without a shadow of doubt, he absolutely will. It may be in my generation, it may be in several generations. I don't know when it will be. But when he comes back, that is our foundations. In fact, a giant mountaintop is all of a sudden going to have a city smashed to the top of it, and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be Yah's city, and we're finally going to dwell in an amazing city. And that's what we're looking for, right? And so they did not receive the things promised, right? Because they did not have the Messiah right there. All they had was faith, and that's all they could walk on, which was enough for them. Verse 14, people who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. And they're talking about the sentence above that where they said they know that they were foreigners and strangers on this earth, which we all are. Verse 15. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, Elohim is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Guys, I don't know if that makes a tremendous amount of sense, but something right there is huge when our Elohim considers himself a God to you. That is what we are after. That is what we are after. But is he going to consider himself a God to you if you're not considering yourself a people to him? If you're not keeping his laws, statutes, and commands, he won't be your God. That is what we want. We want Elohim Most High to be our God. We want him to walk with us. We want him to talk with us. We want him to guide our way. We want him to live with us and abide with us. And when we are tested, we lift up our hands and look to him, and all glory to him. We have to. We absolutely have to. Here we go. 17. By faith, Abram, when Elohim tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. Now listen up. This is amazing. He who had embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son. Even though Elohim had said to him, it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Before I go to this next verse, guys, Abram had a promise. Abraham had a promise prior to him sacrificing his son, and his promise from Elohim was that I will make your son a great nation. I will make him as the stars of the Shamayim. Now, if Abraham goes and cuts his throat or kills him, however they killed him, that wouldn't happen, right? Unless Yah was faithful and Abraham believed that he would what? Verse 19. Abraham reasoned that Elohim could even raise the dead, and so in that manner of speaking, he needed to receive Yitzchak back from death. This is the only verse in this entire chapter that I can reconcile with, that I can understand what is going through the mind of Abram, is that he knew that Yah was going to bring his son back. He didn't matter if he killed him, and knew that he knew by faith that he was going to receive him back. And verse 20, by faith, Yitzchak blessed Yaakov and Esau in regard to their future. By faith, Yaakov, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshiped as he leaned on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites and from Mitzrayim and gave instructions concerning the burial of his bones. By faith, Moshe's parents hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was no ordinary child and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moshe, when he'd grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. Guys, this is important. Right? This is important. This is showing our forefathers. These are our family. If you don't know this, I am talking about your great, continue the greats 100 times. Uncles, your great grandpas, these are our people, right? This is who we want to cleave into, is the people of Yashrael. We want to cleave into these people. These were our people, and these were the things they did by faith. Are you living in the same way that they lived by faith? Are you showing Yah that you will receive him with the same faith that he's asking for? Verse 26, he regarded disgrace for the sake of Mashiach as of greater value when the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith, he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He preserved because he saw him who is invisible, right? And that is what this whole thing is. Are you able to see the one who's invisible? Do you need him in a physical form before you can sustain that faith? Or are you willing to take him at his promises, beautiful promises of the Torah, that he will be your God and you will be his people? By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. By faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon and Barak, Samson and Jephthah, about David and Shemuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in the deserts and mountains, living in caves and in the holes in the ground. They were all commended for their faith. Guys, we're talking about the lowest low. If you're stuck wandering in mountains and caves and you're stuck in goat skins and you're destitute and persecuted and mistreated, it doesn't sound like we have a wonderful life to live, right? This world now is going to be full of challenges. It's going to be full of testing, and we must come through with this testing. If we are tested and we fall, what is our faith? We have none, right? We must believe that our Elohim will take us through no matter what. Even if there's life, even if there's death, even if horrible, horrible things happen, Elohim is there. But without faith, he's not going to show himself. Without faith, he's not going to walk by you. Let's see. The world was not worthy for them. They wandered in desert caves. Verse 39, they were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. Since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Now, I did not understand. I got through this entire chapter, and I did not understand this. I did not understand what this last thing said, and I read it in several different things. Let's look again at verse 39. They were all commended. Who's they? These were all commended, right? The people before, all our forefathers, the ancients. They were commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. What had been promised was what? Well, redemption, salvation, eternal sacrifice in Mashiach Yahushua, right? So I got that part. Verse 40. Since Elohim had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. I didn't understand that, what that says, and I'm going to try it. What does that mean? For us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect? And this is where I always go to my brother Todd, and there's my beautiful wife with a stick beating the dogs, and she's not part of the lesson. This is Todd's. Well, the entire chapter is focusing on the fact, and this is again, I wrote him back. I said, hey, I don't understand what this last line means. And in the Sefer, it's the same thing. And these, verse 39, and these all, having obtained a good report through faith and received not the promise, Elohim having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. So I'm really stumbled up that they without us should not be made perfect. And this is what Todd says, Brother Todd from Shema Yisrael. Well, the entire chapter is focusing on the fact that these people performed all of these acts and deeds on faith, belief, without ever seeing the fulfillment of that belief, the Messiah. Their faith was perfected through the Messiah, who revealed the fulfillment of their faith. He confirmed that their faith was based upon truth. The us are those who saw the Messiah and later received the testimony of Yahushua. We now walk in faith, understanding the fulfillment. We now perfect their faith through our continued walk of faith with full understanding. They believed without seeing. We believe having seen. That is how their faith has been made perfect through us. So, my friends, this is the end of this lesson, and it is something that we are on a wonderful day. We are on a Passover day. We are on a Sabbath day, a day that we are called for, and everything is about faith. And faith without believing and faith without works is dead. If you say that you have faith but you do not have works, well, ask James, and James will say he will show you his faith by his works. And, I hope you guys are good. I hope this lesson, somebody gets something out of this. Faith is about everything. I believe I have enough faith that if I had to raise the dead, that I believe it. I believe a mountain would move if I so chose to attempt to make that happen. And I believe we all do. I believe we have a supernatural power that all of us can wield. And we have to be walking in the way, though. I don't believe this will happen. I don't believe that we can be these Christian guys dancing around with snakes and doing all this crazy stuff that these guys are all doing. I don't believe that works like that. But I believe that true faith is all that it will take. Guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm out.